my mastectomy was February, and then my reconstruction was March. Honestly, it was a few months of me constantly checking in with my decision. And every time that I would go to, let's call it my oncologist, and I would have to tell her multiple times that, no, I'm not doing tamoxifen, that I left there in tears because she made me feel so fearful that this was going to come back if I did not take this tamoxifen. Then I would calm myself down. I would do a meditation. I would go inward. And I'm like, no, not 1 ounce of my being does that sound okay with. And then I just stood my ground. And then she kind of stopped asking. And here I am.
Welcome back to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, or welcome to. I am a coach, high performance coach, mindset coach that really helps people to reconnect to who they are and really go after what they want. We are doing this podcast to interview solstigators that do just that. And this guest is no different, Crissy Florio. She is a cancer survivor. She doesn't like to use the word survivor. She is a cancer thriver of 3 years. She is a yogi instructor and uses her knowledge of both her journey of healing cancer and her yoga background to help those going through the process or who have healed and need support. She's incredible. And her journey of how she stood in her belief and listened to her intuition to heal. She's a mom, she's a doer, and you won't be disappointed with this conversation. So go listen to Crissy. All right. So welcome, Crissy Florio. Welcome to Journey to June.
Thank you. I'm beyond honored to be here, truly.
Yes, it's crazy. Sometimes I have a calling to ask someone to come on, and you were one, and it was like this big group of women that didn't know each other, and you left early, and I was like, yeah. I've got to get her on.
Oh, I have the chills right now.
I just thinking about energies. And I didn't really even know your story until I started to dig in. But tell us like where you're at right now and what you're doing. Okay. And I know you're a mom and you're yogi and all those things.
Yes. So I'm a mom of two. My children are not little children anymore. They're 21 and 18, almost 19 and 22, which is crazy. I'm going to have a college graduate in just a couple of months, which is insanity to me. Married my high school sweetheart, and we actually live in Palm City, both native Floridians. So I don't think I'll ever fully leave the state. It's my heart. And but right now, as it stands, yes, I'm a yogi. I've been teaching yoga for, over like 12 years now. And I'm a breast cancer survivor. I don't really love the word survivor so much, but thriver. So I'll call that. I'm sure we'll talk about that a lot. I am technically cancer-free right now. And I am just really trying to live a life of purpose, of joy, of adventure, have fun, embrace the little things, love on the big things too. But, I feel like life happens in the days where there's not too much going on, where you can really appreciate the small stuff, right? Because the bigger stuff come and go, and there may not be as many, right? But the day in, day out, hey, let's just go to the beach at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and just go walk the beach. Those little things like that. I have an ongoing weekly date with one of my besties in the mornings. We go for a walk, and I just didn't even know if I would be able to walk at all because back not feeling great today. And we ended up doing 4 miles and having all the jokes and the fun and just catching up and just feeling so full, so fully full. And then I come home and I get to talk to another breast cancer pink sister and then kind of help her a little bit. And then I took a beautiful bath and I did a meditation in the bath just to kind of reset me and ground me and nourish me, and then I get to come here and chat with you.
So like when I listen to this, I'm like, oh, we all should just like have a day and just be able to do this. And you've created this.
Yes.
But also like how do you get there? Because
Well,
that doesn't just happen.
No,
So,
it doesn't, I guess.
So when you think, like, I'm sitting here going, God, was she always like this?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some wiring, but like when you think of yourself when you were a kid, like, was there that something like that feeling, or how did you? You grew up in Florida? Obviously, like, were you a big family? I know you.
Yeah, it was big. It was big family. So I think the person that I was born as, this cute little human Crissy, this little baby Crissy, came into the world as a Libra, and I'm very much a Libra. I feel like I embody all of their characteristics. And I think for me, I try to feel a sense of balance in life, peace. I really enjoy people being happy. And when I was younger, my father was paralyzed when I was 5 years old. And I did not live a very peaceful childhood. There was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting. My father didn't really understand his behavior and how hardcore it was. And so I think because of the way that he was and the dynamic of how I grew up, it made me even more become this person of, let me bring the peace, let me bring the joy. Oh, you're having a bad day, let me put a smile on your face. And not to the detriment of I'm all peace, light, and happiness all the time. No, I have down days, but to the point where I like to make people feel my energy, sunshine, good positive energy. And I think that also leads into why and how I became a yoga instructor as well. So maybe I wasn't always like, hey, I'm going to just go take a bath and do a meditation in the middle of the day. I led up to that point. But I think that what really got me here today with being okay of taking a bath at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning is life's too damn short. Right? Life's too short. Why don't you just take a bath in the middle of the day, unless you're obviously working? That might be frowned upon, but, or not working, but working in an office, like I work from home. So I create my own hours. Why can't I just go and take a bath? Who's to say that I have to work 9 to 5 every single day? And doing that and doing a meditation is going to help me in all of my other work that I do. Meeting with you, being clear-minded, being present, being grounded. Yeah. And so it really is helping me in everything else that I do.
Okay, of course I want to go back to your family, your upbringing, because that's, you say it was heavy, and obviously your father was paralyzed. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Where, I guess, yes, you want to bring the light to all of it, but where did you, I always feel like there's a time in our childhood, or, for me, I feel like it was late to go, God, I was this way for so long. Was there a moment beyond your cancer diagnosis? Was there another moment that got you into yoga that said, I have to be a little different or I'm carrying anything? Did you carry anything from that? Because I think childhood is, I mean, I had a great childhood from the outside looking in, but there's stuff that we carry.
Absolutely.
And so where was your journey in that, releasing some stuff?
I think within the last 4 years. So the beginning of 2020, before the world shut down, I already started unraveling some of the heaviness, the subconscious stuff, emotions and behaviors that I was feeling from my childhood. And at that point, some ahas occurred. I started journaling. And then I think when COVID hit and we had to be home by ourselves, we had to appreciate just what we had. We couldn't go out and have to do all the showy things anymore. We had to simplify. It allowed me to go inward even more. I started reading a lot more mindset, spiritual books. And so I started getting real honest with myself. And I saw more and more like, I need to shed some of these layers. These are doing me no service to myself, to my children, to my husband, to my friends, to my family. So I feel like I was just like, okay, I'm going to just kind of start unpacking some of this. And then I think that's really where like my growth occurred, which then led me to September of 2020. I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. I was triple positive breast cancer. And like, I think about that time and I'm like, I curse a lot. I'm sorry. Shit.
Go.
Like, shit, how I am a healthy person. I'm for the most part positive, stress-free. Yeah, stressors obviously, but like, how is this happening to me? And then on COVID year on top of that, but it was a gift. I really firmly believe that. And even at the time of my diagnosis, I was like, okay, well, after all the tears, after days of like, whoa, is this really my life? And bringing myself back to consciousness, because when you get diagnosed, I hope you never have to experience it. It is like you were just hit by a train going like 5,000 miles per hour.
Yeah. I let me just, first I want to take space for anyone listening or anyone that knows someone. It is exactly what you say. Yeah. I have not personally gone through that, but I have we lost my niece who was 5 weeks old who had cancer. Ugh. But it hits you like a truck. Yeah. And I just have witnessed, close, but witnessed. And I also have some friends recently that explain that to a T. And I'm just curious, when you got diagnosed during COVID, which was a double whammy. Yeah. I guess my question is, because I have a friend who really didn't want to, she wanted to do it her way, and she didn't want to give it a voice. And it, like, from an outsider who wants to support. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm asking. Like, when you found out and you had tears and you're like, what the hell is happening to me? What was your process? And I'm just want to get in the brain of you guys, because sometimes it's hard to even like relate, because we never.
Sure.
Obviously, that's why you help people.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think, number one, I always like to remind everybody that every situation is going to be different. How people react is so completely different based on their personalities, right? So for me, I sat in the car with my husband and just tears. Of course, I'm going to start to cry, and that's okay. Yes. But then it was just like, okay, I have to tell my closest people, my sisters, my best friends. And, thankfully, I have a beautiful network of amazing people that they just kind of went into go mode for me in certain areas. It was like, okay, well, do you want me to tell this person, this person, this person? And I was just kind of like, to some, yes, can you just take that load off of just telling certain people that maybe not be in my immediate circle, but I know they care for me. So yes, please take that. Once kind of my sisters and my best friends knew, that's when I had to tell my children. And that was like the hardest part, because they were, I think, 15 and 18 at the time. And, my son just got to college and he's getting ready to live his life. And now I got to tell him that. And then my daughter, who's a very beautifully, emotionally child, and she was a child then, is going to have to see her mom go through some really tough things. So that was like super, super hard. But I had to be honest with them of like, all is going to be okay, because deep in my soul, I felt all was going to be okay. And, I very much kind of went into after all the tears and the emotions and all the things, like I stand up, I'm like, all right, I got this shit. Got it, right? Warrior girl's going to come out. And I did all the things like, fuck cancer and, I got to kill the cancer. And I felt like And even this language around cancer itself is very harsh, negative, conqueror, like. And listen, don't get me wrong, like, yes, you want to kill the cancer, but the cancer is also you. The cancer is your cells in your body that just went rogue. So it's like, I have a tough time, and maybe that's the yogi in me of just saying, well, I got to kill the cancer, fuck the cancer, blah, blah, blah. No, I moved slowly and in my own time, more of like, oh, no, I'm going to do this peacefully. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the word warrior, and I love the word fight. Because warrior to me, I don't think of like masculine, hardcore gladiator warrior. I think of a like warrior in yoga, warrior 1, warrior 2, warrior 3. That's where so much you can meet this sense of like struggle and grace and power, but yet humbleness. You know, like a sense of hardness, but then beauty, right? So that's kind of how I started to interweave like this feeling of like, okay, no, I am a warrior. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take myself away from that, but I'm a peaceful warrior. Yeah. And the word fight to me is not like fight in a ring. Fight is like advocating for yourself, you know, because unfortunately also too, not to totally change subjects, but like in this society of our medical system, it's very much doctors are up on a pedestal and you are down below because you let cancer happen in your body. So you're going to listen to everything the doctors say. And don't get me wrong, yes, you do want to listen to what they say, but it doesn't mean that you have to do everything that they say.
I love this conversation because I don't think we're taught to be our own advocate. Yeah. And again, exactly how you showed, like people just look as if they're God. And I two things that came up in listening to you is one is like language and know how you are defining your language, which gives you power. Yeah. And I think if you're listening and going through whether it's cancer or any moment or any trauma, any transition, like your language. So when you obviously already were doing yoga and in this space, but how do you deal with the language of always checking in? Like I mean, it sounds crazy. I mean, think of schools. Like here's your values, work. Here's your values of this organization. But everybody has a different definition of what these things are. Right. And knowing like how you see it is important.
Knowing how you see it and tapping into your own intuition. That to me is one thing that everybody should learn how to do. Because from that place of that gut feeling, I feel like this is right for me, is not happening in their mind. It's happening in their gut brain, right? And that is one thing that yoga has taught me over the years of when I started learning about like the chakras and the yoga philosophy and the principles and the morals and the restraints. In time, I have learned more and more. It's all about tapping into your own intuition and your own power. And then that, if you're really aligned and you're really in tune, then you can make whatever beautiful decision you want to from that place. No matter what your doctor says, if it doesn't feel fully aligned and you go into any type of treatment kicking and screaming of like, fuck, I don't want to do this, then guess what? You're going to get every symptom under the sun, and most likely that treatment's not going to work for you. But if you say, thank you, but no thank you, I'm going to try this, then that's going to work for you, right? So it's not a matter of what you do or what you don't do. It's about like where does it come from? Where do you do that from? Where do you make that decision from? And that to me is
and that is, I mean, this is what Live Your June. It's like we have an essence, and if you look at any child, they all know exactly what they need and what they want. Yeah. And then until through life time throws stuff on us, and we are really unpeeling what already is inside of us. Yeah. And when it comes to a moment that you are tested, and you look at these doctors that doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing.
Right, exactly,
it's just
but they only know what they know.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a girl on this podcast a couple weeks ago. Actually, she has a it's called Soothe Your Soul. It's a store that you would love it. Stones. It's down on Donald Ross.
Oh,
amazing. And she came from California, and she was diagnosed 4th stage, and the guy was like, "You need to get this out," and and she healed herself in 4 months.
That's amazing.
But totally did not get. But I'm not saying everybody has this path.
That's the thing,
it's
right?
like you have to find your own. So anyway,
Right.
when it came to you, doctor tells you this. How did you navigate your own intuition?
Initially, I was like, they said, we got to do chemo, then we're going to do surgery, then we're going to do radiation. And I was scared, no doubt in my mind. It was stage 2. My tumor was around 6 centimeters. So it was a big guy, right? And I wanted that thing out. I was like, oh my gosh. So I opted to do the chemo. I opted to do a bilateral mastectomy. I opted to do reconstruction because those, to me at that time, in that fearful state that I was in, whatever, that felt aligned to me. I felt okay with it. Scared? Yes. Afraid to do the chemo? Yes. But I'll tell you 2 things in just a second with the chemo and my experience with all of that. But when things came, when my doctor told me, we went in and there was no sign of cancer. The chemo did its job, right? I knew for a fact that, yes, the chemo probably did its job and it was fantastic and it was hard on my body. But guess what? I coupled the Western treatments alongside with pranic energy healing, with meditation, with white light visualization, with my yoga, with breath work, with calm, with ease, with grace. That also I know helped me in becoming cancer free. And so by that time, that's when I said, because of course they're like, well, you got to do radiation next and you got to do, tamoxifen. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. And my doctors were like, wait, what? The radiation, they all kind of were like, okay. But when I said no to tamoxifen, and again, I'm not saying that anybody listening to this has to say no. It was my own personal reasoning. I allowed myself to really tap into my intuition and see what felt right. Every time I thought about radiation or tamoxifen, my body vibrated like, hell no, this is not what you need to do. It was like that voice in my body was saying, no, this is not for you. And so I don't just sit back and do nothing now. I work with a naturopath. I've changed my diet. I've done even more healing and mindset work and tapping into my gut brain and my power and my worth and all the things.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't go through what you went through, but I did IVF to have my daughter.
Yeah, that's
and
traumatic too sometimes.
I was told you're not going to have a baby, and I was like, all right, well, I need you, but I went and found herbs. They say no herbs. They say no acupuncture. They say no movement.
Yeah.
And sometimes, again, it's exact. I hear two things. One is have the people that you surround yourself around people to help you navigate and support in this hard moment, and then also trust your own instinct in this hard moment. I mean, this is it's hard to do because when you're in that fear space.
Yeah.
How long was the process when then you said no? How long was that process?
So I was diagnosed in September of 2020. I was done with my chemo in January of 21. I did 6 rounds of HTCP. And what was beautiful was, so I did 6 rounds of that chemo, the chemo cocktail, if you will. And they always, in my situation, they did an MRI to kind of see how my body was reacting to the chemo. And it went from almost 6 centimeters to 4 millimeters in 3 treatments. So again, that kind of was like, you're doing all the right things, keep going. So I did the other 3 treatments. I did the mastectomy. And when I did reconstruction, it was actually probably between when I finished chemo and when I did reconstruction, they started talking obviously about the radiation because they're going to do that after, and then, starting tamoxifen. So that was probably end of January. My mastectomy was February, and then my reconstruction was March. And honestly, it was a few months of me constantly checking in with my decision. And every time that I would go to, let's call it my oncologist, and I would have to tell her multiple times that, no, I'm not doing tamoxifen, that I left there in tears, because she made me feel so fearful that this was going to come back if I did not take this tamoxifen.
Yeah.
But yet I'm fighting with myself because I don't want to die. I don't want this to come back. Reoccurrence, like, oh my God, that scares me to no end. But then I would calm myself down. I would do a meditation. I would go inward. And I'm like, no, not 1 ounce of my being does that sound okay with. And then I just stood my ground, and then she kind of stopped asking, and I kind of, here I am.
I love it. I love it. What do you think in the process, in the diagnosis of getting through it, what did you learn about yourself, and how did it change in your relationships? Like, I'm just curious of what you learned about yourself and where your relationships developed.
I think that if you let it, a traumatic diagnosis or situation, if you allow it to allow yourself to slow down, to really get to understand what was the reasoning for this. And I'm not saying what's my why, right? Why did I get this? That's not it. It's more of like, what is it trying to teach me? Where was I out of alignment before? And I think for me before, I was very much a people pleaser, trying to make everybody happy, coming back to my childhood. I was also a dancer. So this form of trying to be perfect and beautiful and all the things, because on stage, that's how you have to be. I kind of found myself trying to be that outside of it. And not to the point where I was like, oh my God, I have to be perfect and I'm going to do anything possible. But like, there were certain things that I found myself trying to be that. And so, and I was also a very busy person. Like, we always have things going on. I was always just go, do, right? Mm-hmm. So the slowing down of quarantine life and then into my diagnosis and my journey, again, I had to slow down because COVID was rampant. I had no idea how my immune system was going to be. My friends and family couldn't come over unless they took a COVID test to come hang out with me. And I was a very, like, I just loved social person, right? So what my diagnosis taught me was like, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to not need all that external distraction. Like, go inward. What can you learn about yourself? And what I found about myself is that I actually do enjoy being by myself now. And I never really loved that before. I always said, oh, I'm too boring of a person to go to a movie by myself. Will I go to a movie by myself? Probably not. But I don't mind going to the beach by myself, going for a walk by myself, doing these meditations, taking a damn bath at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? Like,
I think that is such a valid, like, I just heard something last night and I was like, I am by myself a lot. Because when you're doing different things, sometimes you're alone a lot.
Yeah.
When you're, but I do think our society doesn't teach us to experiment with being by ourselves so we feel safe.
Yeah.
It's like you're not lonely. You're just alone.
Right. And what a beautiful place to be. It's such a gift. I teach my yoga students this all the time. Like, close your eyes, go inward. Think about how much of a gift it is, because guess what? When you close your eyes, you are the only one that knows what's going on in your body, and vice versa for me and for everybody else, right? And I think that that is one thing. That's why I love yoga so much, is that it allows people the time to slow down, to do the sensory withdrawal, and to go inward. And then that's really where you start to learn, conversate, communicate with yourself, understand yourself better. And it doesn't matter what form of yoga it is. It's just that moment of going inward and just finding that inner connection. Because if and when these types of things do happen to you, guess what? You have a huge amount of spiritual practices that you can call on to help you. Because I can tell you what, I know one thing. I in the beginning of my practice, of my journey, I always said, how the hell did this happen to me? Everybody still says it to me. Chris, if this happened to you, I mean, it can happen to anybody. And while I thought I was a healthy person then, there was definitely certain things that I have changed since then. But the truth of the matter is that my years of learning about the yoga philosophy and connecting to myself on and off the mat and incorporating a lot of the yoga into my world, it helped me in my diagnosis. So being healthy before, having some spiritual practices or faith or whatever it is that you believe in beforehand, because then once you are, faced with something like this, it does make it a little bit easier.
I totally believe, like, the inner work. It could be yoga, whatever it goes back to whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to create space to start to understand who you are.
Yeah.
And how and what's speaking to you. And I really struggle as a parent that with 11-year-old, when I watch, there's just like, just do this, or even I can be the parent that says, just do this.
Yeah.
And how I really feel like that's the shift that needs to happen in the next generation, and us to be better leaders, to tune into what we're supposed to be, because we already have an essence, like, who are we, what's speaking to us, so we can start to help those, which you're doing with, I know you're helping cancer patients. Which I think
that's part of the mission, right? That's part of
you
the
had
gift
to go
that comes
through
out
it.
of Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that is one of the reasons why I think I was gifted cancer, was because I've always been one that loves to teach and train. When I was little, here's a funny story. When I was little, in my little playroom, I would always have, I would like play school and play teacher. And then also I always loved killer whales. And I had the big blow up pool killer whale float, and I had a hula hoop, and I played the killer whale trainer. I was Shamu's trainer, and Shamu would jump through my hula hoop, and I would have a whistle, and I would train Shamu to do this.
Love it.
Right? So I think that's what led me into teaching yoga, is because I just, number one, the body to me is so amazing, and I wanted to learn more about the yoga asanas at first, and which opened my eyes to so much more, obviously. And then now, I think with my diagnosis, number one, I'm learning even more about the body itself, and like the lymphatic system. I'm such a nerd for now. It's like not even funny. Like, I'm always doing lymphatic work or doing like workshops to teach people about the lymphatic system and stuff like that. But it's more so also like, now that I went through that, I saw how I went through my journey. I want to help women who are just being diagnosed or just out of their diagnosis, be able to tap into that sense of grace, to find ease in their journey as well. Like, again, with their language, and what kind of, meditations and breath work can they do to not be so fear-based into thinking about what's to come in the future, or thinking like they did something wrong in the past. Like, bring yourself back into this moment right here. And so with just just talking to breast cancer thrivers to I've done a dear cancer workshop where we kind of gave them some tools to break up with cancer, right?
Yep.
So that because fear of recurrence is really a detrimental thing. Once your doctors say, okay, you're cancer free, bye-bye.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm thinking different things, like,
Sure.
but how you're just, here it is. It
Here
could
it
be
is.
like a death. It
Yeah.
could be cancer. It could be
Heart
my
disease,
IVF,
it could-
heart, anything.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, we just have to deal.
Like nothing.
There's no
hey, this is
support.
what you should
Mhm.
probably change. Here are some things that are known to cause cancer. How about you limit or completely, remove those out of your world? And it could be any. Listen, I love my wine, but I try to limit it. I really try not to drink wine during the week. Maybe on the weekends, I allow myself to do it. But diet, right? Incorporating more cruciferous vegetables. Having soy, there's all the myths out there, and some people may still be kind of on the fence on if it's good or not, but like just certain supplements that you can take, changing some of your cookware in the house, or your beauty products, your house products. Like there's so many things that we can be doing that they just are like, okay, bye-bye, go about on your own.
A lot of information. I mean, so first of all, there's a lot of information out there, but I think just the other thing, I didn't go through your experience, and I just knowing my friend who just has gotten reconstruction and she's had some infections, and how she finally found a group, and how so if you're listening, like I really believe in this, even if you're doing IVF or you're a single mom or whatever it is, like find a community that you can relate to.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's what you're offering is a space to be seen and heard, and someone relates to you. Like, like I can say what you say because I teach similar, but I don't come from that. So it's like it's like if you got divorced, or you, like my mom, I remember when she lost my dad, and like it changed the relationship with her friends that still had partners. Yeah. Yeah. So I just think, how do people find you, who are diagnosed or whatever? How are they finding you?
So I have my website. It's Crissy at healinginharmony.net, and I'm sure you'll probably add it in the notes and everything. Yes. But I'm trying to be more visible on like Instagram, and Instagram is more so like my yoga page. I do have a Facebook page too, but I probably don't give it as much love business-wise. It's more personal. But those two, like I said, I'm located up in Palm City. You can find me at one of the local yoga studios there teaching 3 times a week, but I also do a lot of private sessions. That to me, I love to work one-on-one, because then I can really customize the time and what that person needs. And it could be something different every day. Especially with a cancer diagnosis, there are days that you have energy and you do want to move your body a little bit more. And there's days that you could barely get out of bed because your energy is so low and just all the feels. So I love to just kind of meet people where they are, and I feed off of their energy, and I can kind of feel what they need and what they want. And I do a lot on Zoom too. A lot of my clients are not even in the state, but I do in person
Crissy's
as well.
energy is amazing, and I do feel I feel the flow of your energy, and I think that is so important with anybody you work with. And this goes back to like you're intuitive. Yeah. Like I think of going back to like when I did IVF, and like I had the top doctor in Cornell, and I just didn't. And I would, if I kicked myself, if I was more aware back then, that I would have, done a little more research and found someone that like really allowed me to be in the space that I was trying to create. But I think in anything you do, whether it's instructor, like you have to find the match. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we're not matches.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I think that's okay. We're not for everybody. But I think, again, that's just teaching people more and more to listen to your gut intuition, to really what feels right to you. And it is just different people, different strokes for different folks. Is that the,
I guess that's what they say. That's what they say.
But yeah.
So back to the question of relationship, because I always think in moments in time that you go through a shift or a challenge, or what have you noticed about your relationships or with your kids? Or I think it's interesting to see how things develop, because sometimes people can be on board, and or some people are fearful.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I think all the growth that I have done, especially since the diagnosis, I don't want to say that I ever lost friends because of it. Because I don't know. I
wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like a happy person, and I don't need everybody in my life at all times. But I will say that I understand that a lot of the people that I love are not in that same trajectory that I am in. And because I know that, and because I try to live the very much mindset of you do you, boo, I really try to give other people grace too, and not try to push them into what I'm doing, but more so just be me, stay in my own lane. And if somebody really wants to ask me questions about something, or they're interested in, then I'll give them my, true just, advice and suggestions. But some people just don't want to change. And I will say, for some people that I see that I start to tune in a little bit more of their negative energy, or they're sucking the life out of me or anything. I just don't engage as much. And I also don't engage as much when with judgmental conversations, gossipy conversations. I don't love that. It doesn't make me feel good. And so I notice myself, or I just kind of am retracting back a little bit rather than changing cut and dry a relationship, shutting it down. I feel myself just kind of
it goes back to your intuition of reading the energy, reading the room. But I do think in the growth, because you obviously made huge growth in the last 4 years. And I say this with my clients, you make harder, some is chosen, some is not, but you're making harder decisions. And sometimes it's when you're growing, sometimes someone else that you love isn't at the same level. And it doesn't, it's just being aware of your energy, of what's sucking the energy, what's not sucking the energy. And I think when you become more conscious and more aware of your own intuition, I feel like I see it, I feel it at a higher level than I ever did before, because I'm more in tune with me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you want to live up here, and a lot of people are still living down here in 3D. Right. But I think also too, the more and more we all, you, me, everybody listening, can start to live more authentically, then, and it's let me just say, for me, I'm going to live myself, the way that I feel is right for me. Whoever is ready to pick up on that and want to make changes, they'll feel that. They're going to be magnetic to me to say, Crissy, can you show me how to do this? Or Crissy, just a quick question about this, right? I'm meditating, but my mind's all over the place, right? Oh, yeah, your mind doesn't shut off during meditation, right? So no, it's a redirection. So I just think that it's more about you living your authentic self, conscious living, and it's going to sprinkle out to the people.
Even how I reach out to you. I don't even know why I do half the things.
Right.
And it's something's pulling me to do it.
Something pulling you to do it. Right. And I think for our children too, when they see us living authentically, consciously, mindfully, they'll start to pick up on it. And it may not be right now, but I definitely see certain things, especially in my daughter, that 4 years ago I would never have thought she would be. And she is a little old soul, and she's, got her own little mindfulness practice and spirituality and just her own awesome vibe. And that's okay, I have to believe that I had something to do with that, of just her seeing me kind of do the same thing. And she's not exactly like me. She's her own beautiful self.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's
so important. Yeah. I think the modeling of taking care of your own, and it's funny. I was just on a call with a corporate company, and they were like, we're going to do a journaling workshop. And, I'm like, an hour. It's like she's like, can you teach us how to journal? Like it's like the list,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, it's a deep inner
Yeah.
connection,
Yeah.
and it's not an hour. It's like it's not how it's listening to
Yeah.
your own intuition of what you need for whatever that is, journaling, meditation.
Yeah.
What do you feel? We talk about impact or imprint on future generations, but who do you think has put an imprint on your life that has helped you become who you are today?
Dead or alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll say a couple people. I'll say, number one, watching my father go through such a life-changing experience when he was such a young person. He was 35, I was 5. Watching him go through that and being told, like, hey, you're never going to walk or talk again. And he was driving 6 months later. That, I think, sense of fight within is where I got mine. And he is like, he fights in a different way, right? He's a little more aggressive. He had, brain injury. So he just, thinks of things in a different way than I do. So I didn't take a lot of things from him, but I think that fight helped me in a lot of different ways. And also too, like, I love Bob Marley. God, I love that man. I love everything that he stood up for. And I just saw the movie too, and the movie was phenomenal. But even before the movie, just that one-liner, one love. I have been like ending all of my everything with one love for years. And it's funny because actually, side note, when I was diagnosed, my friends all kind of came together and did like a hashtag one-liner for me, and it was one love for Crissy's jugs.
That's so funny. I love it.
My brother-in-law, I never had big breasts when I was like prior, and he would always make fun of me and call me Jugs, and I didn't care. It was a joke, whatever. So that when I was like, I'm like, how ironic, I get diagnosed with breast cancer. And so yeah, everyone had shirts and coffee mugs and hats that says one love for Crissy's Jugs, and it was like hashtag everywhere. But the one love is so empowering to me, and peaceful and loving, compassionate, because it's very, again, goes with the whole being of yoga, is to unite, to be one, right? One with yourself, one with others, to give love to strangers, to, to everybody, as we just are all one. And I love that. So
Bob Marley and Dad. And isn't it interesting, your father, obviously, like, harder the way he operated with whatever he had, or maybe that was
how
his
he dealt with his
whatever
trauma.
But how sometimes we look at, I feel like there's also the people that are hard on us sometimes are our biggest teachers. And it triggered my own father. So
maybe
it's
here
cool.
with us.
It's a cool experience.
Maybe he's here with us.
He is.
Yeah.
The June. He's the June.
Yes.
He's Joe Jr.
And I definitely believe in that. Of some of your angels and spirit guides coming, and I felt a lot of presence when I was going through my chemo and my diagnosis and my just healing myself. I felt a lot of support on the other realm as well.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's the imprint you want to leave on wherever you are right now? Like, what do you want people to go, Crissy really left this imprint?
Yeah. Gosh, that's a big one. I think that for everybody listening today is to like take a breath, slow down, embrace, enjoy life as it is today. I think that we're so busy and we just try to pile on so much that we lose our sense of self. We lose the connection and that ability to listen to that inner voice. So I would say, like, for everybody listening, unless you're driving, do not do this, but like, turn off everything. Put your phone on do not disturb. Go sit outside or somewhere in a peaceful place. Close your eyes. Take about 5 to 10 deep breaths and just sit with yourself, and as your mind starts to wander to your to-do list and everything, rein it back in and just kind of just feel the breath, or just experience something different, whether it's outside going for a walk, or just, a different breath, a different
Or
body
take a
part.
bath.
Or take a bath in the middle of the day and do a meditation.
Something different. I love it. I
Yeah.
think that's such a perfect message to end with, is like,
Connect to
slow
yourself.
down,
Yeah.
connect
Yeah.
to self.
Yeah.
Crissy, you are, I didn't even dig into it. I know there's more, but we just got started.
We'll
here.
do a part 2.
We'll do a part 2, but just your journey of sharing and being open about it, and standing your ground. Like, I love that you did chemo, and then you're like, said, no, I'm not doing this other stuff. And I don't hear it very often. So it's cool to have someone share it with others, to have the braveness for them to be brave enough to listen to their own instinct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And I hope this podcast brings people that need you to you.
Yeah.
Because I really believe in what you're doing, and I think people need you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. One love.